everyone, welcome to our channel, The Dot Connector. This episode is amazing for you guys. Today, we are inviting our friend Arun Sanduja, who is a physiotherapist in Edmonton, and he came from India as a physiotherapist in 2015. And here, he did get his education assessment and all that licensing done, and now currently he's owning three clinics. So today, Arun will be sharing his journey, how he landed and how he got his education assessment done, and now how he's successfully running all those businesses. So, Arun, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deepak ji. And thank you everyone who are listening to this session. And thanks a lot to the Dot Connector who, that gave me this opportunity to talk about our journey and how the things work here in Canada. And it can be really helpful for all the people who are aspiring to come here in Canada and work as a physiotherapist. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arun, you especially for giving your valuable time. I know you just came back from clinic and I requested you to shoot this video before you leave to India for your vacation. So thank you so much for giving your valuable time. And as you mentioned, yes, definitely this session will be very valuable for all those people who are watching and who are aspiring or looking forward to make their career as a physiotherapist in Canada, whether currently they are living in India or any other country, or if they want to come here with that degree, how they can do the education assessment here, or if somebody is already here and they're watching this episode, and you'll also be sharing some information how the licensing process works for somebody who wants to start from scratch. So Arun, let's get deep into it and let's start sharing. So Arun, tell me something about your journey. When did you came in and how all that started?
I started, first of all, I started my journey of physiotherapy back in 2005 when I got an admission in a college in physiotherapy. And that was back in Hisar in Haryana. My university's name is Guru Jambheshwar University, and I graduated from there in 2009 and started practicing there in India itself in beginning of 2010, and practiced there in India for roughly 6 years, 5.5, 6 years, and I immigrated to Canada in 2015. And I fortunately came as a permanent resident itself. I did not have to go through that struggle of being a student and all that stuff, which is pretty good. And then, I started working here. I was lucky enough to get a job here as an assistant to physio right at the moment I came here. So I started practicing as an assistant to physio and worked as an assistant for about 1.5 to 2 years. And that is when I passed my written component of my exam, which allowed me to practice as an intern physiotherapist. And that's how I started my journey here in Canada as a physiotherapist back in 2017 and have been practicing since.
Wonderful. That is really very amazing. You know what? Many immigrants are having similar success stories. And you said it so perfectly fine. Like when student, they come here, they had to go through a lot of struggle. First of all, they need to finish their education, then work under the work permit time period, wait for their permanent residency, and then they start something which is permanent and full time for them. So I really, really admire all the hard work and efforts being put up by all those students. So yeah, great job, all those students watching out there. And we'll be bringing some more episodes and sessions to help all those students also. So Arun, I remember when we discussed about doing this session, and you told me you're gonna put something together as a PowerPoint presentation, which will show step-by-step process how one can start their journey. So if you can please start sharing that PowerPoint presentation and go step by step and explain us all those processes so that people can get more details. What is the complete process to, from A to Z, how they can come here and eventually they can start their business as a physiotherapist. And we also have some sort of Q&A session at the end or maybe during the presentation once you're going to share. And I got some questions from the audience out there already, and they asked me certain things which you already put that in presentation. So let's get started, Arun.
Sure, Deepakji. Let me share my screen here. So here is a little presentation that I just put in together, and the purpose of this presentation is to educate people who are willing to immigrate here in Canada and want to practice here as a physiotherapist. So this is about how can an internationally trained physios practice in Canada. And the first thing is starting your physiotherapy career in Canada. So let me tell you a little bit briefly about how the things work here. So I will try to talk in context of a physiotherapist who is coming from India, because I myself came from India. Well, it can be helpful for anyone. It's not that somebody who is from India will only benefit from this, but I can talk a little bit more in depth about Indian physiotherapists, because I have been through that process. And I'm pretty sure it's pretty much similar for all the other country residents as well. So when somebody pursue their education in India and complete their bachelor's in physiotherapy, which is a 4.5 year duration or course, they can come to Canada. It can be as a student, or it can be as a permanent resident like I did. Now, here in Canada, you first of all will have to go through this body. It's called Canadian Alliance of Physiotherapy Regulators. Now, this is a national body, and the basic purpose of this body is basically to take the exams and to assess whether you are eligible to write those exams or not. When somebody comes to Canada, they have to get their certification, documents from the university or college that they graduated from, and they have to send all those documents to this Canadian Alliance of Physiotherapy. Now, of course, after charging the fee, which could be somewhere around $2,000, and they will start your process to to assess whether you are at par with Canadian education system or not. So
So
once they.
Arun, let me interrupt you here.
Mhm.
You just created something very beautifully. What I was in the impression, when you are having physiotherapist degree from back home, and once you give that transcript and your syllabus what you have covered back home to
Mhm.
that body in Canada, and then they give you assessment for the number of courses you still need to do. Are you also saying there is a possibility one can maybe get through directly? They don't have to do study and they can challenge that degree right away?
Well, yes. So that's how it happens. The education that we get in India or any other country is valid. They are eligible to write the exam, but they have to go through this credentialing process, which is the function of this Canadian Alliance of Physiotherapy. Now, irrespective whether you studied in India, in Pakistan, in Philippines, or in Brazil, maybe in some African country. So whoever is coming to Canada, he is not educated here in Canada, they will have to go through this credentialing process. So now you basically send all your documents. That too, it has to come directly from the university in the form of transcripts. You can't just take the transcript from the college and send it to them. No, it has to come directly from the registrar office of the university where you studied. And these documents will come to Canadian Alliance of Physiotherapy. Now, this alliance will assess your documents, and they will check whether your education is at par with Canadian or not. And in case they find that your education is absolutely perfect, then they will give you the certificate to write the exam.
Mhm.
Whereas I have never seen anybody who is completely okay with the alliance. So if I talk about Indian physiotherapists, they have to pursue a course which is the healthcare system in Canada, which is entirely different from any other country. So they expect you to do this online course, which at the time I did was 2 months, 3 months of duration. And it was, of course, online course. You don't have to go to the university or college. So after doing that course, they also expect you to write a, IELTS exam, and you need overall 7 band in academic section of IELTS exam. So usually with Indian physiotherapists who are graduated from one of the university in India, they have to do these two things. And that's what the letter you will get from Alliance, that you need to pursue these two things, and then you will be eligible to write your exam. So yeah, once you get this letter and you send the documentation completing, IELTS requirement, you send the IELTS report card to them, and the certificate that you get from the course that I explained, 3 months duration course. The moment you send those documents to Alliance, now they will give you a certificate stating that you are eligible to write exam. Now you become eligible to write exam.
Got it. So, Arun, two things here. Number one, for IELTS. So,
Mhm.
if somebody just passed that IELTS, so they've done maybe West back home and they just landed here, maybe that score is valid for 2 years. Do you think they can use that certificate, or they have to do all over again in Canada?
Well, that is a very good question, Deepak ji, and I went through the same process. So, what happens is usually when you are coming to Canada as a permanent resident, so you basically write the general training IELTS exam. There are two types of IELTS exam basically. One
Yes.
is general training and one is the academic. So if you write general training for your PR program, then of course the Alliance is not going to accept that general training. They will expect you to write academic exam. So that's what happened with me when I came here in back in 2015. I had my IELTS exam, and that was valid for one more year at the time I landed here. But that was of no use. I had to write the academic version of exam again.
Got it. Second thing you said, like, you have to get your transcripts done from the registrar of the university where you studied back home.
Mhm.
I can share from my experience, and Arun, you can also add into it if you like to. What I believe, when you are in India or when you are
Mhm.
in your home country,
Mhm.
at that time, if you pursue those transcript and those assessment paper for the authority or the department of that Canadian organization where you are pursuing your career into, if you can get it done during the time when you are in that country, it is easier. Then you can go by yourself, and you can request registrar by paying their regular fees, whatever it is. You can get it courier directly to that organization. But once you are here, I have experienced sometimes people, it is taking for them maybe 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year to, get all those things from their universities.
You are absolutely right, Deepak ji. So what happens is, I remember my time when I came here in 2015. I was not very well prepared, and I was not aware what to do and how to do the things. So the best way to deal with it is when you are sure that you are going to Canada and you got your permanent residency or any sort of visa, maybe even if you are coming on a student visa, and if you wish to pursue your career as a physiotherapist here, the first thing that you should do is apply or get the membership of Canadian Alliance of Physiotherapy and go to your university and get your documentation done since you are there yourself. You are talking about it may take 3 and 6 months, maybe 9 months. Let us be realistic here. It never happens unless you send somebody on your behalf. Or if I talk about my university or any other government universities there in India, there is not any system, online system, I would say, where you can just go online and apply. It's not about money or time. It is about whether you are able to do that or not. I was lucky enough to have really good connections with my teachers, with some of my juniors. I got it done with no hassle, but I have seen people who especially have to go back to get their documentation done. So my suggestion would be, do not repeat the mistake that I did. And if you know that you're coming here, take some time out and get this credentialing process done. It will not only save you the hassle, but also the time, which is the most valuable thing.
Aaron, since we're talking about this assessment process, also tell me something. I'm not sure if you are having that answer or not. We can always reach out to the audience and answer that question. How about West? I have seen many immigrants are coming through West. Once you go through the West process, WES, then you are automatically getting all your education, assessment done. Can you provide West certificate to your organization of physiotherapists here in Canada instead of they get everything from the registrar of the university back home?
Well, yeah, that is something that a lot of people think that we should try about, and definitely that is a very good idea. But somehow I have not seen this thing happening in any of my colleagues or my juniors or whoever that I know came here. They all have to go through that alliance process. I actually, as far as I remember, I thought about it, and then there was something that would not let me do that. As far as I remember, it was the Canadian Alliance of Physiotherapy would be like it will take us 3 months or 4 months, and we cannot be 100% sure whether that will be eligible or not. So that's why if you are going through that process, I would advise you to start it from the beginning and send your documents,
Yeah.
because the
And
alliance does not accept those WES.
yeah, I think you're absolutely right. What I have noticed in in many cases, like people who are professional back home, and
Mm,
once they are sure they're pursuing the same profession in Canada, for
mm,
example, chartered accountant or any lawyer or any kind of other therapist or in kind of that professional manner, they
mm,
are aware what is their organization in Canada, and
mm.
they start the process right over there.
Yeah.
But like majority of time people who are into journal category, or maybe they are having many streams wide open for them, where
Mm.
simply they just need to get equal to their master degree or graduation degree. In that cases, I think VES or IQAS is sufficient enough. Yeah,
Maybe, yeah.
absolutely right. Perfect. Arun, please go ahead and share your slides and what's next for us.
Well, let's go forward, Deepakji. Let me.
I want to mention here to the audience, do
Mm,
not worry about these slides. I'm gonna put a link into the description of this video.
mm,
Once we upload this video, you'll be having all the information. So Arun, we can share the slide, and they can off your screen sharing, and you can explain what is in the slide. People can always go back to the description box to read all those associations and information which you mentioned. Just run over fairly quickly, and once you start explaining about them, you can
mm.
stop sharing the screen. Thank you.
Sure, Deepakji. There are I have kind of divided in 6 steps. The first step here is to find out about the licensing requirement in the province or territory where you want to work. So what that means is when you decide that you want to go to Canada and work as a physiotherapist, there are a national body which is called Canadian Alliance of Physiotherapy Regulators, CAPR, which is responsible for, first of all, determine whether you are eligible to write the exam or not. And if you are not, what things you can do to make yourself eligible. And number two, it conducts the exam called PCE. And number two step is prepare before you leave your home country, which we already have discussed, that you need to prepare your stuff and get ready for this. Number three is apply for credentialing and submit the documents, which I already discussed with Deepak, and we discussed about how we can submit the documents from India itself rather than waiting. And coming to the fourth point, which is receive your credentialing assessment results, which I explain very much in detail about how the Alliance will give us the certificate that we can write the exam. Now, coming to the fifth and the most important step here is sitting for the PCE exam. And this is a 200 question exam that is online, And nowadays, after the starting of COVID, they have done it in a way where you can write the exam from your home itself. You do not even have to go to the centers, which was not the case when I appeared for the exam. And this is the exam which will make you eligible to practice as an intern physiotherapist. And intern physiotherapist means that you are not an independent physiotherapist, but you can work under the guidance of a licensed physiotherapist, right?
Are there some training hours they need to accomplish, or there is another test after that also somebody need to give to have full-fledged certification for independent physiotherapist?
Well, that is a very good question, Deepakji. So what happens is once somebody clears this exam, PCE exam, they, as I said, are intern physio. And mind you, there are only 3 attempts for this exam.
Wow. And how many times in a year they conduct these exams?
They conduct this exam 5 times in a year.
Okay.
And you can give the exam back to back, but you are only eligible to write 3 attempts. I know some people who exhausted all 3 attempts and could not make it. And once you are in that category, you are not being eligible for practicing physiotherapy in Canada. So
Ever.
ever, yeah, you
It is not like this way. Let's say, for example, if unfortunately you are not able to pass in all 3 attempts, maybe you can wait for 6 months or 1 year, then you can try again. So it is
no,
nothing like that.
no,
Once you are done with 3 attempts, you're done forever.
yes,
So this is very important, people watching out there. Make sure when you're fully prepared, then go for your first attempt and use the balance attempts very carefully.
exactly. And once you clear this exam, then there is another thing which comes into picture. It's called college, or physiotherapy college. Now, as the name suggests, physiotherapy college in back in India, college means the place where you go for your education. Whereas in Canada, each province have the college, and this college is basically the regulator body of the physiotherapists. So once you write the exam, you get the certificate from Alliance that you have cleared your written exam. You send this certificate to the college. And now this college is basically responsible to give you the certificate that you can practice physiotherapy in this particular province.
So basically, when you say college, it is a provincial organization who regulate that body, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, you send the documents and they make you eligible. Now, as you asked earlier, whether you are eligible to practice for certain period of time, yes, you have to send if you are intern physio, you have to have a mentor who will guide you to practice as an intern physiotherapist. And you can only practice for 2 years as an intern. 2 years and 2 attempts. So if you finish your 2 years as a physiotherapist, intern physiotherapist, you cannot practice anymore. If you exhausted your 2 attempts of your clinical component exam, you cannot practice. Yeah. So you got to be very, very careful both in your theory and clinical in component. Now, once you have passed your theory or the written component of exam, you automatically become eligible to write the clinical component exam, which is an OSCE exam, where they will give you the live patients and assess your ability to assess the patients or treat the patients or ask them questions, taking history. It could be anything, right? There will be 16 stations at my time, but now they have reduced it to 12 stations, where there will be 12 different scenarios or live. A room will be there with an examiner and a patient, a real patient. You will go in as a therapist and you will have a task. It could be anything. Now you will have to perform that task on a real patient, and the examiner is assessing you.
So Arun, tell me something. How easy or hard it is to get work as an intern physiotherapist? Because I have experienced some challenges in certain professions. Once you are going through that work experience stage, sometimes you do not get enough opportunities or right opportunities at a place where you can learn and you can finish your training period?
Deepak, so what happens is this period is very short period actually, and there is no problem as such working as an intern physiotherapist. But you are not working as an independent practitioner. You are always under supervision of somebody, and the supervisor who is supervising you is basically your mentor. You will have to do everything under his guidance or her guidance.
It could be somebody like you who are already running a
Yes.
clinic, and somebody can work in your clinic as an intern physiotherapist, right?
Yes, that's right. That's right. So yeah, so that's the thing. Once you clear your theory, start working as an intern physio. I've seen some people who do not even work as an intern physio. They just right away start preparing for their clinical component and pass their exam. But now it comes about if you can afford that or not. It's not easy to survive in Canada without finances, right?
So that intern physiotherapist unpaid position you're saying me.
No, they are very well paid.
Okay.
Yeah, they are very well paid, but but you are under stress to write your clinical component. And mind you, again, clinical component also has 3 attempts. So if you passed your written component or theory component in first go, and you cannot pass your clinical component in 3 attempts, you are still done. You cannot practice.
Now, I'm sure people who are watching this episode, they will be sure and to make sure to get the proper value out of this session and prepare themselves properly before they will start, doing their first attempt.
Yeah, no, you got to be very, very careful and thoroughly prepared. You can't just take any chance. So
Since
once,
we're talking about this, Arun, tell me something because I'm asking on behalf of many people like me who are sometimes not that self motivated for studies and always wanted to get some sort of extra classes or some sort of coaching center who can help them in making step by step plan. Okay, this is the textbook or this is the material you need to study. Do we have those kind of institute also to pass these two exams?
yes, we certainly do. Yeah, yeah. There are so many people. So there are a lot of organizations. There are a lot of people who provide the coaching for the exams. Yes,
Awesome.
although they charge you quite a hefty amount of money, but yeah, certainly.
It's all worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can tell. Yeah, you can say it's worth.
So what next, Arun, after clinical exam?
So after you passed your clinical exam, now you are independent. You are eligible to practice as a physiotherapist all over Canada. Now, one thing here that I would like to mention, as I told about 2 exam, theory and clinical component, both these exams were conducted by Canadian Alliance of Physiotherapists before the COVID strike. But after COVID, as I said, that the clinical component of exam is a live exam where you see the real patients. And since in the COVID time there was restriction of getting together, they had to close the exam for quite some time. Now they have authorized the colleges of physiotherapy, which is a provincial body, to conduct the exam on their own behalf. So Alliance is not anymore conducting the clinical component of exam, but the governing body of province is doing it by itself. In case of Alberta, University of Alberta conduct that exam. Yeah. So yeah, once this is something that I thought I should mention, but you don't need to worry. Nobody needs to worry about it. Once they start their process, they will very likely be very well aware of what exactly they need to do. Yeah.
Awesome. So Arun, as you mentioned, you came in 2015. So how much time it took for you to finish everything to become independent physiotherapist?
Well, when I came here in 2015, I actually went back again in 2015 itself due to some family circumstances. And then I came back in 2016 in real, I would say. And I attempted my theory exam same year 2016, which I could not make it in my first attempt. So I wrote it again in 2017, and that is when I passed my written component, and in 2018 I passed my clinical component.
And you worked for 1 year as an
Yeah.
intern physiotherapist.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you got your final certification in 2018,
Mhm.
then right after that you started your business or you worked in a physiotherapist clinic?
Yeah, I worked in a physiotherapy clinic for roughly less than a year, and I started my own practice in 2019. And
So let's explain that thing in such a way where we can also motivate people. So right now, so far, they just heard the struggling part, like how hard it is, how many limited number of attempts they have. So as Arun came in 2016 and finished everything in first 2 years, so Arun, now start sharing your journey of success, where you are at now, what kind of achievements you have, and let's talk about that.
well, Deepak, it's basically, as I said, I started my practice in 2019, December 29 to be precise, and it was not fun. Let me tell you that. The reason behind that is the moment we started our practice, the COVID hit in, if you remember, in March 2020, and we had to close all the businesses. So it was fun time, and of course, the time that passes, you don't really want to remember that. But yeah, we had to close our clinic in March 2020, and we had to switch on virtual physiotherapy sessions and all that stuff. It was a struggling time, but yeah, then after that we started our next clinic, which is called Glen Reading Physiotherapy, back in 2021. And in the same year, we opened our third practice, which is called Creekwood Physiotherapy, in 2021 again. Yeah. So we recently finished 1 year for both those clinic, and roughly 2 years more than that for the first one.
Awesome. So now you are presently running three clinics with the staff of how many physiotherapists?
Well, we have roughly 7 or 8 physios and a practitioner, three massage therapists, and a chiropractor as well. Yeah,
Wonderful.
and then a lot of front staff, of course.
So Arun, what kind of support our audience can expect from you? If somebody who is watching this episode and they are planning to come to Canada or they are already here, and if they're looking forward for that intern position, or if they just need to see how this thing works and they request for an office tour or some sort of mentorship to get your valuable time to simply sit with you to make their career goals and plans. So how you can support them?
Well, definitely, anyone who want to experience it or who want to see how the things work out, they are more than welcome. They can contact me. We can share my email ID if somebody have any specific questions regarding this, or if they want to come over and visit. I can definitely show them around the clinics. And yeah, if you have any questions or concerns, do not hesitate to give me a shout. And one thing that I will mention here is the persistence is the key. Just stick with what you want, and it is not that difficult.
Wonderful, wonderful. So thank you, Arun, for your generosity. So what I will do, I will put your contact information into the description box. So anyone who is watching, they can reach out to you via email and put up their question and concerns to get some sort of advice and mentorship. You can also reach out to us at info@deepakchopra.ca. So Arun, before we wind up, I really, really want to acknowledge you and thank you for your valuable time and such a great information you shared with us. Anything else you feel it is important for our audience to listen?
Well, yeah, Deepak, it's very important for everyone to know that if you're looking forward to come here, start working right away, right now. This is the right time, and start working on your PR process first of all. Or if you want to come here on a student visa, you can start working on that and keep working on it. Do not think that it's hard or this is nothing if you really made your mind.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, everyone watching out there, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And feel free to reach out to any one of us to get your question answered. And if you are looking forward for more of these kind of sessions on physiotherapy or any other profession or career or business, feel free to share your ideas with us. This is our commitment to bring all those valuable speakers and experts like Arun this evening we invited to share their journey and share their success stories and step by step plan how you can join that career. So thank you, Arun, once again, and thank you, our audience. See you guys soon.
Thank you everyone. Thank you.